Friday, March 21st here on Damon Bruce Plus, brought to you by Ike's Sandwiches. And oh man, I don't know if you're watching the tournament at the Dubliner West Portal today or not, but you should. That's a great place to catch tourney games, Warrior games. And when it comes to covering Warrior games, my two guests do a better job than I think everybody else who claims to do it. I love the Light Years podcast. We've got Sam and Andy of the Light Years podcast joining us here to talk about a team like the Phoenix rising from the ashes, gentlemen. I mean, the Jimmy Butler trade has done as much to course correct a basketball team as any deadline trade as we've seen in a really, really long time. So let's just start right there. Andy, Sam, thank you for being here as always. Again, everybody subscribe to that Light Years podcast. These two guys are fantastic. Could you have imagined this Jimmy Butler deal working out any better than it actually has?
I mean, I was probably the most adamant for doing the trade, but with that said, did I see 16-3 out of the gate and undoubtedly playing like one of the 3 to 5 best teams in the league? No, that I was thinking this would be a trade that got them into the mix. And now I have just full delusions of grandeur watching them. Now I'm just like, Steph's hips okay, or the pelvis or whatever the contusion he got. Okay, title hunt's back on.
I thought it was going to be, I thought this trade was for next year. I'm going to be honest. I think we were high on a move being made, right? Like, I think all of us were sitting here saying, like, they got to do something, anything. I was in for anything. You could have told me they traded nothing for nothing. I'm still in. At least a trade would have been, make this team interesting. That was the goal of the trade deadline. They did way more than that. Story came out yesterday. Sam and I were talking about on our show about Mike Dunleavy being the driving force to get Jimmy Butler on this team. Played with him, knows him. There's a certain level, I think, of Jimmy Butler being an on-court and off-court alpha. They keep saying alpha. It's kind of a football term that they've brought to the basketball, to the locker room, and that has changed the entire, I think, like vibe of this franchise for the past 2.5 years. Because the last 2.5 years have been the exact same thing. We've done shows every day, same exact thing. A game last night, they would have lost the moment Steph left. Games that they would be down by 15 would have lost. They've lost games where they were up 25. Not the case now. Now it's Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green screaming at each other after they get a stop. Like they're football. Like those two guys are football players with incredible IQ out there. I mean, for lack of a better term, they're two dogs.
The reason why this works so well is because it is nothing short of Steph and Draymond saying this fits. I mean, if the two of them are into it, the entire team conceptually has to be into it. And you can see how into it they are. Curry finally has somebody to pull some gravity away from him. Like when Jimmy takes that ball into the lane, it ain't bullshit. You got to go defend that. And I think that there are other guys who would bring the ball into the lane or around the rim where you're like, it's bullshit. Just stay on Curry. It really does open him up. Not since, the peak Clay gravity has Curry enjoyed anyone else's gravity quite like Jimmy Butler. And I'm telling you, man, it has awoken a level of Draymond Green that the Warriors have always needed to be a team that matters. And he right now is, I believe, throwing down the last month of a legitimate defensive player of the year argument that really comes into focus since the Butler trade. This is War Daddy Draymond. This is maybe the best we've seen out of him. Certainly before the Jordan Poole punch. Like, this is unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, he should win Defensive Player of the Year. I'm not convinced he will. For better or worse, he has a reputation, and there will be voters who, I mean, even when he was at his prime, there were voters who didn't truly understand how good he was defensively. Maybe because they're on the East Coast, they don't see games, or maybe it's just because, like he said, he doesn't accumulate gaudy stats. He doesn't get like 4 blocks a game. I don't really see a case for anyone else that's like above and beyond his. Right. Like the Thunder have so many good defenders. It's hard for me to pick. Like, is it Lou Dort? Is it Caruso? Is it Shea Gill? Like, they're a collective. Evan Mobley,
Wembanyama leaving the conversation opens it up.
Yeah. So I mean, it should be his. I think the voters are going to give it to Evan Mobley. It's going to be and this is kind of an NBA media thing that kind of annoys me. There's going to be this feeling that we need to reward Cleveland for something. Look how great a season they had. So give the defense, and it's not like he's not a worthy defender, but they're, like the 10th best defense. They're scoring 130 points a game. I wouldn't say their calling card is their ability to lock teams up. So yeah, that's my long rambled rant.
I would argue this is the best Draymond has looked since 2019. Because think about 2022 when they won the championship. Draymond was good, but he was hampered by an injury for a long time throughout that season. I'd argue, man, this is the best he's looked in half a decade.
Yeah.
And part of that is just effort, right? I think Draymond's kind of this thing where when Steph doesn't play, he kind of doesn't want to play. Kind of can't blame him, but you see the energy. Last night he missed a corner three, and then he chased down an outlet pass.
Yeah. Essentially
from one side of the court to the other in like a blink of an eye. This is the stuff that you don't like. Is Rudy Gobert doing that? Honestly, like is Wembanyama doing that? And Wembanyama is the best defensive player in the league when he's healthy, clear. But
in a league,
plays just not possible.
Right. In a league full of switching, I think defensive versatility has to mean more than just gaudy numbers of blocks or whatever. It feels like, to also tell the NBA's proper story. I'm not here to bag on Rudy Gobert, but the fact that he's got like 4 defensive player of the years and Draymond only has 1, that's hardly the way to talk about the evolution of the game of basketball as we're seeing it in our lifetimes. And we'll see, but I love motivated Draymond. And when you talk about if Curry wasn't out there, he didn't want to be out there. This is another reason why it's really worked with Jimmy Butler, right? Yeah. Because there's another hallway monitor to police Draymond's attitude.
Yeah. It's always good when they have someone who can credibly fight Draymond. Like they had David West in the past. Andre Iguodala is no slouch in his own way. For a couple of years there, it was kind of Draymond could be the big bully. Now at least there's someone who it's like, you're going a little too far, buddy. Let's get it.
That's a great point. I had not thought about that. There is a level of like maybe not fight him, but like accountability, right? Where it's like Draymond, if you're going to go out there and just throw a tantrum and get a tech for no reason 5 minutes in the game, I think you're going to hear from Jimmy Butler. That's not happening. Like especially this stretch. My guess is Steph misses the rest of the month, and they got to win these games. And if Draymond messes it around in Miami or in Atlanta, like. That's what Jimmy Butler is there for, which is what makes his team exciting. Because I was in on them getting like a Zach LaVine and Wiggins if they can keep both. But they're not doing these things. They're not. No, they're really good players in a vacuum, but they're not leading the team this way.
They're not dogs. They're not dogs like the way this guy is. By the way, the Jimmy Butler revenge game back in Miami, that's going to be interesting. And what Wiggins does, if anything, in that game to even be present in that game, that'll be interesting to see what it looks like too. Yeah. Okay, here's I know this isn't the truth, but I think I like saying it, so I'm going to say it anyways. What if I told you that the X factor of all of this was Quentin Post? He is the stretch 5 they've never had, always hoped for. And let me tell you want to talk a little bit about dog? Quentin Post has a level of I don't give a fuck about him that I love, absolutely love. And he can shoot it a little. If shooting it a little turns into shooting it a lot in the postseason, he is a big part of their plan.
I keep waiting for the Cinderella run to run out with him. And the other part of me as I'm watching is like, nothing I'm seeing here doesn't feel sustainable. Like this seems like his personality type. He seems like you said, he's a dog, he's not Draymond or Jimmy, but he's certainly not afraid of anything. He shows no fear in any capacity and he can really shoot it. That was my one fear with them getting Jimmy and making no other moves at the deadline. I'm like, man, they really need someone in the front court who can just stretch the floor. And that's probably not going to be Kuminga. It's certainly not going to be Looney. Where are they getting it from? And lo and behold, Quentin Post, like you said, the stretch 5 of our dreams, the stretch 5 we always wanted.
If he can find a way, because by the way, he turned 25 years old today. So part of this is like he's ready to play. Mike Dunleavy's been, I think, an awesome drafter. I think it's been a little not talked about. He's drafted some really, even TJD, who kind of has fallen off the season, I still think is going to be an NBA player. But with Quentin Post, if they can get him to play C+ level defense, he's going to be a player in the NBA for a long time. I don't know if the shooting is fake. You can't shoot that good for this long. And then now is he going to shoot 40+% on volume for the rest of his career? Probably not. but the way that he shoots the Clay style where he gets the ball and there's no dip. That's what shooters do. That's not like that's not something a guy who's fake shooting does, right? Like I think Nikola Vucevic was someone that they really wanted at the trade deadline. Nikola Vucevic does a lot of things very well, right? He's going to be able to finish in better. He's going to be able to pass better. He's smarter. He's a vet. Can't shoot like this. And then I think the last thing is coachability. I think he's someone that Jimmy Butler obviously loves. That's number one. Jimmy seems to love post and pods. And I think secondly, like, I think he can actually be coached on defense. That's not something that you get from veteran bigs in the league. I think they can turn him into an average defender. That's all you need. That's all you need from him.
Where do you guys stand on Brandon Podziemski? To me, he's living in a little bit of a paradox where when he's out there, it's obvious to see the little boosts that he gives to the Warriors. But when he's not out there, he's hardly missed. So it's hard to label him as like really important, especially with, I guess, Gary Payton II playing some of his best couple weeks of basketball in a Warriors uniform. Maybe that's what's making Pods easier to not miss. But I still haven't figured him out. I still don't know whether there is a guy who is a decent fit for what the Warriors need, or am I really looking at like a 14-year Patty Mills level NBA pest who is going to be in this league for a really long time? I haven't figured him out. I don't think the Warriors have figured him out, and other teams haven't figured him out, which is why when he's out there, he's looking really good at times. Like, if that three is falling, Podziemski is secretly dangerous.
Well, the shot's the swing skill for him. Like, if the shot becomes a little more consistent and automatic, then I think the upside is higher than any of us think. But you could say that for like 50% of the league, to be honest, right? So
right.
It's hard to say. The thing I like about him is he matches the same identity as Quentin Post and Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green. He gives a shit. He is a dog. He's not afraid of anyone. If anything, he tends to bite off more than he can chew. Like he's a little like brash, and sometimes you're like, take it down a level, buddy. Like, pass the ball to Steph. We don't need you doing this, right? And he really sees the game. It's easy to forget he is the youngest player on the roster. He's younger than Kuminga. He's younger than Moses Moody. He turned 22 like a week ago. For him to be that smart of a player, you know, I know he's not quick. He's not the quickest athlete. Like, he's never going to be an above the rim player or anything like that. But it's like, if you're seeing the game that well and you've barely been in the NBA, like, don't write off the upside of a player like that.
I think Podziemski does a lot of things that I think they wish, like, Damon, I don't know if you're going to bring up Kuminga at some point, but like, I think that's what
he's our next topic.
I think that's what they would like. Like, Pods does all the things that they love. To your point about like, where is he going to be for this team? I think he's one of the best 6 players, and obviously they need to close games with 5 guys. And so I think the swing is him, GP2, Moody. They need to pick the 2 best guys out of those 3 every single game to close with. I think Steve has done a really good job of that. But yeah, to Sam's point, like, the shooting's got to work out, and he's shot poorly this season. I think mainly because of the bad first month or so of the season. But since then, he's been shooting. I mean, I don't understand how he can't. Last year he shot 38%. Like, he is a shooter. It'll go at some point. I think that's what it is. And defensively, he's been, I think, a lot better in the second season. Just a lot better. Like Moody.
You brought him up. Let's get to him. He's this team's #1 firebrand, Jonathan Kuminga. The player everybody loves to hate, to bitch about, to worry about, to hope gets extended, to hope doesn't get extended, to hope is involved in the starting 5, isn't in the closing 5, or doesn't even get minutes. Like, there is nothing but ebb and flow when it comes to Kuminga. There hasn't been a steady stream that we've seen out of this guy. It's hard for him to put consistency out there. His raw talent still defines him more than his mistakes, though, in my estimation. I know you guys have spent hours, if not days of your lifetime, arguing about who Jonathan Kuminga is. Have you figured it out yet?
No, and that's the problem. No. Like, fundamentally, I know who Moses Moody is. I know who Brandon Podziemski is. We don't know who Brandon Podziemski will develop into, but I have an idea of what he will do for this team. And with Kuminga, it's still raw athleticism. And there are nights where you're like, man, that was nice because this is an older team, kind of a slow team, and when he uses athleticism, you're like, that's what we need. That's that extra gear that, you're not going to get from Draymond, from Steph, from Pods, from whoever. And then a lot of other nights you just see kind of, he's playing a half step slower than everyone mentally. He's, the shot's still not there. It's improved, but no one's going to mistake him for Otto Porter. No one's even going to mistake him for Harrison Barnes in terms of just his ability to hit an open jumper, which I think is really important in the context of Jimmy and Draymond. And the defense, again, there are moments where he utilizes athleticism and you're like, wow, this guy can really be dangerous defensively. And then there's, you watch him other times where you're like, where is his head? Where is he? Why did he miss that rotation? Where is he going? So enigma, still kind of figuring it out. I mean, it's 4 years of the same in many ways.
It's I think unfair to Kuminga that he's been on the Warriors for 4 years, I think is the issue. I don't disagree with anything Sam is saying. I think looking at the larger picture, if he was drafted by a team that was bad, I think it would have been better for him. In all honesty,
Houston Rocket.
He would be. It's exactly right. Maybe his career wouldn't work out, but I think he'd be happier because he could just play 35 minutes and do whatever he needs to do, whether that be figure out shooting, figure out passing, whatever it is, go do that. But the Warriors want him to play the style that, like, he doesn't want to do it. And I don't know if I can blame him, right? He was a top draft pick. He was I think like a top 5 prospect coming in, if not more. He thinks he's better than like Scotty Barnes, who they played last night, who dropped 30 on the Warriors. He thinks he's better than the guys, Franz Wagner, right? Guys drafted
Jalen
ahead
Johnson,
of him,
who they're going to play next game. Yeah.
Jalen Johnson, right? Who, yeah, I mean, he's done for the season. But like, I can't blame him because he doesn't fit this team. And I don't know if it's his fault. I more so think about it from a Warriors perspective. Why don't you guys just trade him? Like, if you know that Steve Kerr doesn't like the way he plays, and let's speak, Steve Kerr doesn't. Because if Steve Kerr did, Jonathan Kuminga would have played 30-plus minutes a game last year when they were not good, and the year before when they were not good. And Steve Kerr didn't, right? Steve Kerr played guys like Anthony Lamb more than him. So I feel bad for him, actually. But to Sam's point, he's not a good fit with this team. I feel bad.
How come go ahead.
I was going to say, I mean, he demanded a trade a year and a half ago. You guys remember that, where he leaked he's losing faith in Steve Kerr, and he's still kind of on the roster 15 months later. And I don't think the position's changed at all. It's still just kind of
and they didn't pay him. They didn't pay him. Remember that.
It just feels like they're holding on to him, trying to figure out, is this, can we get a better trade for him? Whatever. I don't know. I'm ready to move on, basically.
Okay. Well, as they are still in their not quite understanding what they have in Jonathan Kuminga land, have they found finally what they trust or can count on in Moses Moody?
Yeah.
Look at it this way. When the playoffs come into focus, do you think Moody will be more involved than he is right now or less involved than he is right now?
Probably the same to more would be my guess. Like, he's been playing about 29, 30 minutes a game. Yeah, the last couple of months.
Man.
Yep.
Good minutes.
Yep. I mean, he's exactly the type of player you want when you insert Jimmy. Jimmy's a ball dominant guy. So now you have your 2 ball dominant guy. I mean, Steph's not ball dominant, but in theory, you want most of the shots going to Jimmy and Steph, right? You want the offense to revolve around them. So you want guys who can play off of them. And Moses Moody's been perfect. And the part that's really excited me about Moody is him finally getting those consistent minutes because they need his shooting has led to him defending and growing as a defender in a way that I think we all thought this is what he was going to be when he got drafted, but we didn't see it for a couple of years. Like, he's been really good defensively for them. He's using that 7-foot wingspan. He's turning into one of those 3-and-D guys that everyone is always trying. You can't have enough of them, right? So I think he's going to play a ton in the playoffs.
I mean, we've seen him not playing the regular season. Then all of a sudden in the postseason, Steve's like, I trust Moses Moody. I'm going to play him. Like, I can't imagine it now where he's And he's shooting 38% from three. I feel like he's a little streakier than that. But Sam hit it on the head, dude. Defensively, just ridiculous. Now, part of this, I think, is because when you have Draymond and Jimmy behind you playing free safety, both of them, or middle linebacker or whatever, like, you can do that you can just kind of gamble a little bit, or I think what he's doing is he's so long that he can give up a step. He doesn't have to be like, I need to stay in front of this guy. He can give up a step and recover because his wingspan is 7 feet long. And you can do that when you trust the defense behind you. And I think that's what's made Moody and Podziemski so much better on point of attack defense. I can't wait to see him in the postseason. I can't wait. He's also a lot more aggressive than I thought. Like, we talk about dog. I think it's overused at this point, but Moody's got enough, like just more than enough of that, along with, I think, the rest of this closing lineup that they're going to go with. Every single one of those guys, like, are just.
I don't know. I don't know if they can get to the 5. I know that they got to hold on to the 6. You don't want to slip back to the 7, and hopefully that happens. They got I think a doable 6-game road trip. Feels like 4-2 right around the corner. Then come home, take care of your business, and win 10 of your last 13 games. I think that they can do that. I really do. When it comes to the postseason, I think the Denver Nuggets are Gandalf. Thou shall not pass. They're their kryptonite. They're not getting past the Denver Nuggets. I can see them getting swept by the fucking Nuggets. I don't care how good they're playing. Like, that is the one team hopefully somebody else takes out. I'll take a puncher's chance with just about anybody else. You feeling the same way?
Yeah. I mean, to be clear, I don't agree with you on Denver. I actually think they are gettable for the Warriors, but undoubtedly, if you said, who do I want to play least in the West, the top 2 would be Denver and the Lakers. So somewhat aligned with your point. No, sorry. I need to see a bunch of college age kids beat Steph Curry before I believe it. Sorry. I'm not going to go there. I mean, we say this all the time on the show. There is no dominant team in the NBA. I know Cleveland is on pace for like 65 wins or 64 wins. They're not the 2017 Warriors. They're not the 2015 Warriors. To me, this is a league with a bunch of very good teams, but all have a flaw you can exploit, including the Warriors, by the way.
Right.
So that makes it very interesting when you go into the playoffs. Like, it is Adam Silver's parity that he's been talking about. There's a lot of parity around the NBA. Like, I could make a case for 8 teams winning the title this year, and I can't really remember the last time we would be talking about the NBA like
That's true. It's a larger conversation is whether that's good for the league or not. It's probably that, because it is similar to kind of like the NFL. I guess you could argue the Chiefs have won every single year, but like, there have been other teams in there that snuck in, and it's kind of the way it is with the NBA, because the NBA has always been, it's a 7-game series. The best team always wins 99% of the time. Right now, I don't think, to Sam's point, can you argue, like, in a 7-game series who would win and really be all in on that pick? Thunder, Celtics, Cleveland, Denver. Damon, I'm with you on the Denver. I changed my mind. I was not in on Denver, but then I watched the way that Aaron Gordon can just beast them, and then just think about what Jokic would do. And I'm kind of like,
Gordon is a problem.
I changed my mind. I was not in on Denver. My thing is, maybe Denver's an easier matchup now for someone like maybe the Lakers or something like that. I don't know. But Denver's been weird all season, man. Their defense is atrocious. So I think for the Warriors, my point is, one thing to look out for is how they mess around with the seeds. Is it actually better for them to stay in the 6, right? Because maybe they can play the Rockets. Maybe they're in the 7. The Rockets go to 2. Maybe they're in the play-in game. Maybe that's not so bad if they win the play-in game and go play the Rockets at the 2, right? Or do they go to the 5? Maybe they play the Grizzlies.
An extra step for an easier path.
Maybe.
Be careful with that.
Yeah, that might be 2 light years. Like, that might be trying to be 2 light years. And you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. We saw what happened with the second timeline. You don't want to mess around with the light year stuff. I think it's going to be an interesting last couple weeks where it's like, yeah, they want to be in the 6, but what if you're playing Denver? What if that's your first round matchup? What if you're playing?
Undoubtedly, I'd rather play the Rockets than Denver. Like, I don't think any of us are here to argue about that. So.
But here's the thing: like, if you got to play Denver, you almost want them early so you're as fresh as can be.
That's true.
And let's be honest. I mean, Curry, nothing structural here. You could hear that tailbone
Yeah,
thud
that was
on
scary.
the court up in the upper deck at Chase Center. I mean, that thing, he got keistered hard. Hopefully he's okay. All signs are that he's going to be okay, but I would expect him to miss the next handful of games, you would think, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They said he's getting reevaluated Monday, which, I mean, it's nice that he's getting evaluated Monday, but yeah, I'm with you. I don't think that means he plays Tuesday.
I think a lot of people have said this, but I think it might be a good thing. Obviously, if he's out for a month, it's bad, but he needs a rest, man. Like he looks exhausted. If he could get a week off, kind of like LeBron. LeBron looks like he's coming back at like the end of next week, and it's like I guarantee you, LeBron's going to look amazing when he comes back from his groin injury.
Last question, and I know you both got to run, and I thank you very, very much for your time today, gentlemen. To get one of you is what I was hoping for, to get the full Lightyear Voltron assembled here. I'm so happy that we were able to get the both of you. Like there's anyone else here. I was happy that I was able to get the both of you. This Warriors team is obviously changed the arc of its year with Jimmy Butler. Is that enough to get Mike Dunleavy Executive of the Year, or the leasing of Nico Mannion for Luka? Just wrap that up. Because look at it this way: but for Luka, Jimmy Butler's the move of the deadline. But it's Luka, so you really can't say that. Who do you think?
Yeah, well, that might be the move of the decade, so it's hard. Yeah. Decade beats deadline.
It sure does. This is the NBA equivalent of the Red Sox walking away from Babe Ruth.
I thought you were going to say Mookie Betts, which hurts me a little more. But Babe Ruth is historical. Yeah, that's pretty bad. But I just here's what I'll say. I will say, if you're, because Steph and LeBron have been circling for a decade. LeBron, you got Luka. You got to be able to win a championship. Like, what are we doing here, man? Like, you've been playing with great players forever. You got to win a championship. Mike Dunleavy, though, underrated, drafting, and then now getting Jimmy Butler. He's been a lot better than I think Bob Myers was in the last couple seasons. So Bob Myers' last couple seasons, not in the beginning. But
maybe Mike Dunleavy can trade that executive a year that he's not going to win for a contract extension. Maybe that's the move. I've been pretty impressed with him. He took over an older team, a team stuck against the cap, no draft picks. He's found young players. He's done really well on that front. So, but yeah, dude, Damon, I just don't know how it even feels weird to say Rob Pelinka Executive of the Year, because I'm not really sure what he did, to be honest with you, other than answer the phone, So.
Right. And give the single easiest answer of all time. Would you like Luka Doncic? Yes. I don't even care how you end that question. It's deal's done. Obviously, Andy had to bounce. Sam, anything that you've always wanted to say about Andy, but not with him in the room?
I'll save that for the next time I'm on here. No.
I absolutely love what you guys have done on Light Years for years now. Like, you were ahead of the podcasting game before anybody. I hope that your business and your clicks are just exploding over the last month. It feels like the Warriors have breathed life back into a conversation that was, we're kind of at the end of it. Everything's supposed to be slowing down, but God bless them. They really did rev the engine back up one more time here.
I don't need to tell you, because I'm sure it did the same for your numbers, but it was looking pretty dark there in January. They couldn't get a win. And the thing about the Bay Area is this isn't a market where people get angry and start screaming, particularly a team who's had success like the Warriors. They just check out. Like, we've seen it with the Giants. Like, do you think there are less Giants fans in the Bay Area now because they've been bad? No. People just check out on them. They just kind of, there's a lot of stuff to do here, right? They do the, hey, tell me when they're good again and I'll tune back in mentality. And that's kind of where the Warriors were headed before this Jimmy Butler trade. So, which, made doing the show, you can cry for me, get out the little violin, but it made it a little tougher. It made it a little it's just, there's not much to talk about there when they're sitting in purgatory. And so, thank you, Mike Dunleavy. Thank you, Joe Lacob, for saving the Light Years podcast.
Obviously, there's quite a bit to do before this season's wrapped up, but already starting to look ahead to next season. Jimmy, obviously, for a full ride, should change the arc of that year, should put more bounce in Kerr and Curry and Draymond as they're approaching the end of all of this. Do you think Kuminga remains on this team, or will he be the big vehicle through which the offseason move that really changes things be driven through? What would you rather have, Jonathan Kuminga or the promise of a Kuminga trade?
What I'd rather have is Kuminga, like everything click for him and he just gets extended. And, it's like the Moses Moody thing where it's like, what's better than trading Moses Moody? Moses Moody grown up. Much easier, that would be the best case scenario. Do I think that will happen? No, I'm probably going to go 60-40. I think he's moved in the offseason. That's kind of that's where my head's at. I don't, in some ways, Jimmy was the perfect player for this team, but also kind of a death blow to Kuminga because they want the ball in the exact same spots on the floor. They want to do the exact same things, but number 10's better at it. Sorry, he just is, right? So in some ways, I kind of feel like they'll use Kuminga to get another player who can stretch the floor in the front court, kind of like what Quentin Post is doing. Maybe someone who's a better defender at that position. That's what my gut says, but we'll see. We'll see.
Sam, what a pleasure, man. Thank you so much for coming on. Thanks to Andy again. Thanks for being so easy to reach out to and get a hold of. And let's do it again as the playoffs come around. I'd love to join you guys on your pod anytime you need me. I am, as they say, available. So let's do something soon.
Appreciate it, Damon. Anytime.
Thank you very much. Sam Esfandiari right there of the Light Years pod, Andy Lee, and just great stuff with those guys. Love talking hoops with them. And man, the Warriors have given us plenty to actually talk about lately. As always, we are brought to you by Ike's Sandwiches. And let me tell you, I don't know what you're doing for lunch this afternoon, but it is the perfect day to lean in to the fact that if you sign up for that Love Rewards program, you're going to earn your way towards free sandwiches, free chips, free drinks. And if it is up to you next week to order a little something for the office, a little catering, check out Ike's Catering. You'll be very, very happy that you did. Sandwiches for everybody. Sandwiches for the people over at Ike's. And let me just tell you, our good friends at the Dubliner, boy, are they open for business. Now the tournament games are happening all afternoon. Play a little hooky from work, hop on Muni, take it out to West Portal. Dubliner, Muni will drop you off right out front. Go get a Guinness, watch a half of an NCAA tournament game, hop back on Muni, go back to the office. You can play a little hooky during the tournament and play a little hooky at the Dubliner West Portal. You'll be happy that you did. Again, look at all the names, all the folks that we see, all the regulars. Bree CS says, great combo with Andy and Sam. Thank you, Bree. I agree. Those guys are fan-freaking-tastic. I love what they do. They got to the podcast game like before anybody out here in the Bay Area. So they're great at what they do. Love talking to those guys. Just wanted to say Rob Pelinka and Nico, BFF. Joe, if they weren't before the trade, they got to be now. I mean, how about this? When Nico Harrison is fired, he's going to need Rob Pelinka to hire him. And Pelinka should, because one guy made the other look like a freaking genius. I don't think Nico Harrison should be allowed to live a comfortable life in the city of Dallas. I think he should be harassed out of the state of Texas by all living, breathing Dallas Mavericks fans. That guy made an unforgivable transaction. Unforgivable. And if he was on marching orders to do it, he should have resigned. You don't want your professional reputation attached to, I'm the guy who traded Luka Doncic. So look, we started with an awful lot of Warriors today because of the Lightyear guys coming on. I guess I can get rid of these now. I don't need these anymore. The other thing, and I went over this in great detail this morning with Kruger on Wake Up, there's an awful lot of buzz about how Brock and Team Brock are circling back towards the 49ers and saying this is a $60 million a year player. And he wants to live in a neighborhood closer to Dak Prescott's financial neighborhood than other guys who have been, getting smaller deals. Now, I can honestly tell you that it is the rare 48 hours where the NFL feels itself losing a little ground in sports conversations, because that is the level of attention that is paid to the NCAA tournament. So the fact that today, in the middle of the opening round, you're going to get your Brock wants 60, because people are going to click on that. People are going to click on that. That's an attention getter. But I don't know how much there is to it. I certainly don't know if there's any element of that that's even really new. Mike Garafolo, an NFL insider, is saying Brock's team is looking for 60. Well, of course they are. That is market rate. Of course. There's really not much of a story there. The story would be Brock is not looking for 60. Like, that would be a story. Of course he's looking for the highest amount of money that he can extract from a team that he's already physically represented one of the greatest deals they will ever enjoy in the history of their franchise. This guy gave him starting quarterback, championship level production as the last pick in the draft. You cannot be more value than what he's already provided. You just can't. So, I think that the story is a story that could have been printed at any point in time last week or next week, but they went with it today because everybody's looking for a little attention up against the NCAA tournament. By the way, Baylor has just beaten Mississippi State 75-72. There you go. There's a 9 over an 8. I love the tournament, even though Indiana's ruined my NCAA tournament by not being in it. Joe Sullivan coming in again, saying, Damon, they had a previous relationship, Nike and Kobe. Yeah, absolutely. Nico Harrison and Pelinka, they got some battle scars together. But God, I mean, I don't care how good of friends or whatever relationship you have. You should never want to trade $100 bill for a $1 bill. That's a really rough thing to say about Anthony Davis, but if you've seen the games he hasn't been playing lately, that's about a $1 bill compared to the 100 that is Luka Doncic. It is great seeing you. Great seeing so many names, so many regulars in there. Great seeing a few other people who came, I think, along with the Light Years boys here today. Thank you very, very much for showing up. Let's see. What else do we have? The Curry pelvis issue looks like no structural damage. Now it's just dealing with discomfort and pain. I wouldn't be surprised to see him not play in Atlanta. And then after that, hopefully he's back quickly. I've got a little today in history for you this Friday. But first, I got to share with you the single freakiest story. This is not for the kids. I got the freakiest story for you that I saw all day today. It starts with an opening paragraph that just sucks you right into the story. Are you ready? Are you ready? As Michael Dale lay with a plastic bag, saran wrap, and duct tape sealed around his head, Michaela Railsdam sat next to him with a vibrator and a cell phone filming content for her OnlyFans page. Now the adult entertainer and mother of 3 has been charged with murder. This guy was into fetish play. Wrap me up in saran wrap, pretend you're suffocating me. And she was filming it for her OnlyFans page, and he died. And he died. In April 2023, Dale, who was 56 years old, poor Dale was probably a little lonely in his life, and he was paying this 29-year-old OnlyFans model and had paid her $11,000 to come to his Escondido home to perform some bondage and sadomasochism acts upon him according to a police arrest warrant that was filed by the Escondido police. When she arrived at 6 p.m., Dale appeared intoxicated, but nevertheless, she proceeded to spend several hours engaging in fetish acts with him. Dale had several extreme and unusual requests. According to the affidavit, he wanted to be wrapped up like a mummy in saran wrap. She obliged. He wanted her to gorilla glue a pair of women's boots onto his feet. He did that. She did that. And apparently the saran wrap thing and duct tape around the head worked a little too well. So she is being held on a murder charge. So I haven't investigated anything. I don't know anything, but I do know this. Let's just downgrade that to manslaughter at worst for her. There is no way this prostitute, and that's what she was. This is a prostitute at this point. You're showing up, you're a prostitute. There's no way this prostitute went intentionally about killing the John who had paid her $11,000 in the past month. This is called a meal ticket. Nobody burns intentionally their own meal ticket. So I'm going to downgrade her murder charge to manslaughter. She's a mother of 3. Obviously, things have not worked out great if she's doing this sort of things for OnlyFans, or who knows, maybe she's making money hand over fist and the joke's on all of us. All I can tell you is that's rough. That's rough. I mean, the whole Joe Sullivan says it well. Hey, the guy died doing what he loved. Yeah, I guess. She can have an OnlyFans in prison. The Wi-Fi is not as good, though. Joe Schmo. Joe coming in again, $2. Just go, Jesus. Yeah, I told you it was going to be the freakiest story you heard all day. Getting back to sports, Irwin saying, come on, Damon, AD is least it worth a ripped $20 bill. Fair enough. When healthy. That's the thing. You aren't worth it if I can't spend it all the time. She literally choked the golden goose. Irwin. Yeah, there's just, again, I think that there are people who, might have something really sinister within them and have committed acts of murder. I don't think this is murder. I think this is a mistake. Again, with my thorough investigation of the situation, it'd be really stupid to kill the guy who keeps on giving you huge handfuls of cash to step on his balls with high heels on. That's not a guy you want gone. That's a guy you want on speed dial. So I absolve her of any murder charges. Going to downgrade that to manslaughter. I wish her and her 3 children the very best of luck in the upcoming criminal proceedings. Meanwhile, imagine being the family of Michael Dale. You probably don't tell much of your family how kinky you are, and they got to find out like this. That's rough. In terms of keeping his memory alive, do you subscribe to her OnlyFans page to see if he appeared in previous videos? I mean, this is a kind of a gross and morbid question, but again, this is where my mind goes. Would there be anything reassuring watching a guy getting abused sexually, if he enjoys it, that you used to love, knowing that here he is, he's enjoying it? That'd just be gross. The whole thing is gross. Very, very gross. Good luck to all involved. All right, it's officially time for Today in History. Are you ready to wrap up your week with a little history lesson? Are you ready to learn something you might not have known? I think we got a few interesting things here to let you know about today. First of all, happy birthday to former NFL running back Adrian Peterson. He turns 40 years old today. Happy birthday to Gary Oldman. Great actor. I love Gary Oldman. He's always great in movies. He is 67 years old today. Happy birthday, I guess, to the concept of zoos here in the United States, because today in 1859, the very first zoological society was incorporated in Philadelphia, today, that place is called the Philadelphia Zoo. So here we are. It's the birthday of zoos. I enjoy a zoo when a zoo is up to its best behavior and practices. And I loathe zoos when they look like depressing, sad places that no animal should be kept. There are good zoos. There are bad zoos. May all your zoos be good zoos. Today, in 1952, and I got some other things to tell you, but this is definitely the coolest thing I'm going to tell you about today. Happy birthday to the concept of a rock and roll concert. Because technically, I guess that was born today in 1952, hosted by Alan Freed, who was the DJ in Cleveland, who came up with the phrase rock and roll. Alan Freed, the first rock and roll concert ever, was put on by the Moondog Coronation Ball. It was called the Moondog Coronation Ball, and it happened at the Cleveland Arena in 1952 in Cleveland, Ohio. Also, the first official rock and roll concert to ever be shut down by local authorities because they printed more tickets than they had capacity. And this thing was such a hit with the kids that they had, a fire marshal situation in there. And there you go. The first ever official rock and roll concert today, the Moondog Coronation Ball at the Cleveland Arena in 1952, hosted by Alan Freed. The Dominoes opened along with Danny Cobb, and your headliners that day were Tiny Grimes and Paul William and the Hucklebucklers. I don't know anything about Paul Williams and the Hucklebucklers other than, boy, they got a great name for that band. Backing me today are the Hucklebucklers. There you go. How great is that? I love learning things during my prepping of Today in History section, and I didn't know anything about Paul Williams and the Hucklebucklers before today. And now we all know. I guess it's a big day here in the Bay Area. Something very historic happened today here in the Bay Area in 1963. Alcatraz closed its doors forever, and the final prisoners remaining on the rock were all transferred out today. Today in 1963, Alcatraz basically closed. Needless to say, Alcatraz is still a very big deal here in the Bay Area. It is a fascinating place to go. If you got family in town and you got to do some tourist shit, get out to Alcatraz before you do Pier 39, because Alcatraz is officially interesting and cool. It really is. When it comes to interesting and cool, the concept of a television cliffhanger was brought to primetime television, and tonight in 1980, all of America was asking the question, who shot JR? There was this TV show called Dallas. Dallas was a really big TV show, and it had one of the all-time captivating America's pop culture moments when they wrapped up a season with JR getting shot, right there in the bathroom in his shower. And you didn't find out who it was until the next year. It was this huge who shot JR. I mean, there were T-shirts in America. People were walking around wearing who shot JR T-shirts. If you're old enough to remember this, you're old enough to remember this. If you're not old to remember this, you don't give a shit about who shot JR. By the way, it was his mistress. It's always the mistress. And by the way, that was murder. That wasn't manslaughter. That was definitely murder. Not like the OnlyFans mistress. Let's see. Today, in 1989, Sports Illustrated published a report tying Pete Rose to gambling. Needless to say, that grew legs and would become a story. So today is the day Sports Illustrated made public that Pete Rose and gambling, something happened, and a series of events was set in motion that we all know happened. By the way, Pete Rose should be now inducted into the Hall of Fame, that he is dead. He has served his lifetime ban, which he deserves. And as a player, the player deserves to be in the Hall of Fame as much as the manager who cheated deserved to be banned for life. His life is over. Put him in the Hall of Fame now. Finally, in terms of big historical things that happened today in 2006, Twitter was founded. What Twitter was, what it became, what it is now, where it is going, there's an awful lot there, isn't there? But today, it all started in 2006. Twitter was founded. And I don't know if you can make the argument that the world is better or worse, but it certainly is different. And then finally, I don't know how we come up with it's this day, it's that day. Today is California Strawberry Day. So big California strawberry, pushed hard for that to happen. Let me just say this, strawberry, one of the ultimate, you don't know what you're about to get fruits there is. Strawberries are either you bite into it and it is the most forgettable, no big deal, what else you got fruit there is, or it is absolutely delicious. Like that's one of the all-time, what are you going to get out of this bite? It's hard to tell until you make that bite. And then a strawberry is either a big meh or it's incredible. So happy California Strawberry Day. Happy Vermouth Day. Did you know that the classic martini used to be more vermouth than either vodka or gin? But throughout the years, the vodka to gin to vermouth ratios all flipped when the martini was originally served. It was more vermouth than it was vodka or gin. I like vermouth. Happy Vermouth Day. And I also like crunchy tacos. I feel that we don't talk about crunchy tacos enough. And we get the street taco, we get the corn and the flour tortillas, which I do love. I love a street taco. But the crunchy taco deserves more than like the Doritos Locos Tacos ad campaign behind it to be talked about. Get yourself a crunchy taco today. When's the last time you had a good, real crunchy taco? I love a crunchy taco. I feel like crunchy tacos have taken a backseat. Like the soft tacos have a better agent than the crunchy taco does. When you can get a great crunchy taco, that's happiness right there. That's good living. Hey, we got Michael Chan, a member now for 15 months, talking about the OnlyFans model murder, manslaughter. That's some Black Mirror stuff right there. I guess if she had held a mirror up under his nose, she might have seen this guy's not breathing anymore, and she could have avoided all of this. But all I can tell you is that it's been a very interesting 48 hours for the YouTube channel. I want to thank all of you members. We've added about 300 subscribers in the last 48 hours with one of the most watched 24-hour windows I have ever produced here on the channel. Over the course of 48 hours, if ever the total views is around or above 100,000, that's a really good 48 hours for me. Right now, latest 48 hours on this channel, over 221,000 views. There is a short of Steph Curry operating on the court. It's just me tracking Steph's movement, and the algorithm has kissed it on its forehead, and it is officially off and running, and who knows, it'll probably be over 200,000 views maybe by the end of the day. So it is it's a monster for me. Thank you. Maybe you've seen it. If you haven't, go look for it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your support. Thank you for being a member. Thank you for hitting like and subscribe on this and all other live streams. Thank you so much for the super chats, the stickers, the support. Thank you to my sponsors, Ike's and the Dubliner West Portal, for their support. And thanks to all of you for watching, because without that happening, we got nothing around here. So thank you very, very much. Have a great weekend enjoying the NCAA tournament. Nothing but big Warriors games in our future. We will continue monitoring a mind-numbingly aggravating offseason for the San Francisco 49ers. And again, it's Vermouth Day. So grab yourself a martini at some point this weekend. You'll be happy that you did. Thank you very much for tuning in, and please do remember that sports don't build character, they reveal it. And like that, oh, thanks to Sam and Andy for joining me today as well. And like that, he's gone.